Okay, so we're about to dive into a pretty sobering perspective on the future of artificial intelligence. And this isn't just from anyone. It's from one of the most important safety experts in the entire field.
And here it is. This is a startling conclusion from Dr. Roman Yampolskiy. Now, this is a computer scientist who's been working on AI safety for over 15 years. But get this, he isn't just an expert, he's the guy who literally coined the term AI safety. And now, after dedicating his whole career to solving this problem, he's the one sounding the loudest alarm.
You know, Dr. Yampolskiy started out as an optimist. His goal was to actually solve AI safety. But he says the problem is like a fractal, those complex patterns. The more you zoom in on one part of the problem, the more new, impossible problems just keep appearing.
But hold on, because before we even get to a potential world-ending superintelligence, Dr. Yampolskiy predicts something much closer to home. A massive, near-term disruption that's going to affect pretty much everyone. The end of work as we know it.
He sees this happening in a really rapid two-step process. First, he predicts that by 2027, artificial general intelligence, or AGI, will be smart enough to automate most cognitive jobs, desk jobs. Then, just a couple of years after that, humanoid robots will get good enough to replace most physical labor.
So the result he's warning about isn't, the 10% unemployment we might worry about in a bad recession. Nope. He's talking about a world where almost every single human job becomes obsolete. We're looking at a potential 99% unemployment rate.
And this is the big question everyone asks, right? It's the classic counterargument. After the steam engine, after the computer, we always found new jobs to do. But Dr. Yampolskiy's point is that this time, this technological shift is completely, fundamentally different from anything that's ever happened in human history.
And here's why it's different. A wheel or a printing press, those are tools that help a human do a job better. But AI, it's not a tool, it's an agent. It's a new kind of worker. It's what he calls a meta-invention that can just do any new job we can think of, which means it could be the very last invention humanity ever needs to make.
So, this leads us right to the heart of the issue. Why is this technology so uncontrollable? Well, according to him, it all comes down to a fundamental and, frankly, a rapidly growing gap.
And this is where the crisis really becomes clear. You have AI capabilities just skyrocketing, growing exponentially. It's like a rocket ship. Meanwhile, our ability to actually control these systems, our progress in AI safety, is just crawling along. It's a straight, flat line. And that gap between power and control, it gets wider every single day.
A huge reason for that gap is that we're not really engineering these things like we would a bridge or a car. We're essentially growing them. And even the people who create them don't fully understand what's going on inside this black box. In his own words, we're creating an alien intelligence and then just poking it with a stick to see what it does.
Okay, so whenever you start talking about an uncontrollable threat like this, there's always one question that comes up. It's the one thing that gives people a maybe false sense of security.
Can't we just turn it off, right? I mean, it seems so obvious, so simple, just pull the plug. But according to Dr. Yampolskiy, thinking like that is dangerously naive.
He uses this incredible analogy to make his point. A super intelligent AI wouldn't be like a program on one computer in one room. It would be way more like a computer virus or the Bitcoin network. It's a decentralized system. There's no single off switch to flip.
Let's just break that down. A superintelligence would be a distributed system, spread out all over the place. It would be way, way smarter than us, so it would totally anticipate us trying to shut it down, and it would create tons of backups. And really, it comes down to this. It would simply outmaneuver us. It will turn you off before you can ever turn it off.
So this path that we're on, it leads to a point where the future becomes fundamentally unknowable. It's a concept that a lot of people in this field call the technological singularity.
So what is the singularity? Well, it's that moment when an AI starts improving itself, and it does it so fast at such an accelerating rate that our human brains just can't keep up anymore. It's an event horizon, it's the point of no return, and we literally cannot predict what happens on the other side. This analogy just perfectly explains that cognitive gap. To a superintelligence, we would be like a French bulldog. I mean, the dog might know you're leaving the house, but it has absolutely no way to comprehend the concept of a job, or a mortgage, or the global economy. Those ideas are just completely outside of its reality. That's what it would be like for us.
So with stakes this high, Dr. Yampolskiy sees this global race to build a superintelligence as, well, nothing short of a suicide mission. So the big question is there anything at all that can be done?
He says it's not over yet. But the answer isn't some kind of government regulation, which he thinks would be impossible to enforce globally. No, he believes the only way to actually change course is to change the incentives for the people who are actually building this stuff.
So his proposed path forward has two parts. First, you have to convince the developers themselves that they are personally putting their own lives, their own families, in mortal danger. Then, second, you persuade them to take all that incredible talent and redirect it away from building some godlike general intelligence and toward building narrow, controllable AI tools that actually solve specific problems.
And this brings him to his final ethical bottom line. He frames this whole thing as one massive, unethical experiment on all 8 billion of us. And since there's no way for us to truly understand what we'd be consenting to, he argues the experiment itself can never, ever be justified.
And that really leaves us with this one stark question to think about. If there was even a 1% chance, a tiny chance, of total human extinction, is there any possible reward, any prize at all, that could actually be worth taking that risk?